indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And maybe Canada.
Elsa, do we have a special guest? There's a young man.
Scout, Boy Scout. All right.
You want to stand up and just tell us your name and your scout troop?
My name is Maddox Arroyo. I'm in Troop 809. I'm a Light Scout, so this is one of the very few requirements left. So Eagle and then Eagle Falcon, and then I'll be done.
Very
Great,
good.
congratulations. Thank you for coming. Item 1 on the agenda, approval of the minutes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Are there any citizens to be heard tonight for items not on the agenda? Moving on to items for consideration. Item number 3, discussion and possible action regarding the request of Elaine Kearney from FASLA of TBG Partners representing Trebe Sasser Jr. of Ridgemont Properties, owner, to appeal staff's decision to allow under Section 5.8 of the city's building code that requires property owner or authorized agent to pay a fee in lieu of mitigation instead of planting additional trees as requested per Section 5-156A4. Heritage tree removal mitigation for the property located at 111 Catherine Court. Letty?
Thank you, Mayor. Location of the subject property zoned multifamily on the east side of Broadway. This is an appeal to Chapter 5 tree preservation. So applicant seeking approval to apply tree plantings required by current zoning regulations towards mitigation requirements. That would result waiver of a required mitigation fee. So just some background, staff reviewed the project and approved in 2022. Permit was issued in 2023. As far as trees removed, 11 heritage-sized trees were removed, 14 non-heritage. There were additional trees that were less than 8 inches in diameter, 7 that were also removed. So this is the plan that was reviewed by staff back in 2022. You'll see all the trees identified in green. Those that are identified in red are the ones that are considered heritage species. It should be noted that for heritage, you have to meet both species and size. It's an aerial site plan provided by the applicant. Tree legend on the left. That is consistent with the plan that was submitted back in 2022. Condition back before construction. So they've noted that 4 of the pecan trees died of natural causes. Street view prior to construction. So the calculations shown here are what was included in the original plan that was reviewed. However, when staff reviewed and issued permit, it was with the understanding that the mitigation was not approved, as they were still trying to figure out what they were going to do with the mitigation requirements. Landscaping and mitigation has to be resolved before building final. Proposed mitigation plan, again, this has not been reviewed by staff, so those numbers would need to be confirmed. Site plan. Parking lot trees. Those not required by zoning, but not counted towards required mitigation. Same thing would be for any canopy street trees required by zoning, but not counted towards mitigation. and additional site trees. Supervised landscaping plan also need to be reviewed by staff. And proposed streetscape rendering. So the applicant is appealing Chapter 5 or staff's decision under Chapter 5. In this case, if you go to Section E, it speaks to meeting the intent of the code. So as far as tree removal permits, staff is able to issue a permit for the removal of a heritage tree at no cost. In addition, it would not be subject to required mitigation so long as the applicant submits a documentation at the time of the application stating that the heritage tree is either diseased and or dying or dead. So if heritage trees are removed, which they can be, they would be, the owner and or applicant is required to either plant back an equal amount of inches removed, minimum 4-inch caliper trees on site. If for some reason they are unable to meet that requirement, they can pay a fee in lieu of the required mitigation. For multifamily zoned lots, there is no cap, so it would just be at $300 per inch. Give removal of 14 heritage trees. The determination by the arborist was not submitted prior to the removal. Based on staff review, a total of 272 inches were removed. A mitigation fee at $300 per inch is $81,600. Again, requesting waiver to required mitigation and applying additional tree plantings and or mitigation fees. No public notice was required for this request, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Letty. Elaine, are you going to make the presentation or Treves?
I think we'll both.
If you need to, right here.
Okay, perfect. Mayor, council members, my name's Treeb Sasser, Elaine Kearney with TBG, and we are here to request the administrative waiver from the council on the mitigation fee specifically. So nothing with the plantings or requesting any less plantings on the site. We're simply here to walk through, and Elaine's going to walk through on the technical side, but ultimately going to be requesting a waiver on the tree mitigation fee. Elaine, do you want to walk through the numbers?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having us in this evening. So thank you for bearing with us just a little bit. I understand that there's a lot of numbers and this one's kind of complicated. And if any of you are like me, this project has, there's been some years between when it was initially submitted, and we've had to go back and kind of dust the numbers off and refresh ourselves because a lot of things have happened along the way. So just a couple of things I think are quite important is, first of all, I have to say I was very impressed that my client really loves trees. One of the things that he really asked us to do early on is he wanted us to plant as many trees as possible and to really plant big trees. If I can just see if I can get this clicker to work. Unfortunately, between if some of you may recall, there was an initial phase on the project where the buildings were demolished and then the construction fence went up and it kind of sat there vacant for a while. And unfortunately, in that intervening time, as we all know, we went through some substantial drought years, and we lost 4 large pecans, just died of natural causes. And it's a little bit hard to see, but these images here actually show those pecans just standing there dead. So our first ask is to just go ahead and acknowledge that because those did die of drought, that they should be allowed, that we are able to update our calculation so that those are no longer part of the existing trees. That's kind of the first piece of it. The second piece of it, and here maybe, Letty, we can confer. I see a little discrepancy in the numbers. I think one of them said 272, and then the number up here that we had come to in our calculation was 238. So I think maybe we need to dig into why there's a difference there, because we had a slightly different number. So the next piece that I think I'd like to point out is that while our client would have loved to have mitigated all of the required inches on site, the site is incredibly constrained. So what this diagram is sort of showing is that everything, obviously there's the building footprint, can't plant there. Everything in yellow is parking lot, which we can't count, which leaves, and then you have the right of way. So it leaves only this tiny little strip that's really available for large trees. And you can see that we have planted pretty much as you possibly could fit in there from a tree standpoint. So I think part of the ask is, as is common in some other jurisdictions, simply to be able to count the trees that are in the yellow and the right of way, so the parking, towards our mitigation, because they are new trees that are going to be planted on site. Also, I'll just point out the 2 red trees there were ones that we had also initially wanted to plant, but were in conflict with a sewer main and a sidewalk. And so unfortunately, they just wouldn't live if we planted them there. So this is really just showing those trees that we're asking for a little variance on. We are planting 54 inches of parking lot trees, and to be able to count them towards our mitigation. And then likewise, the street trees, which add up to 24 inches and would not, we recognize, typically be counted towards mitigation, but because we really have nowhere else to plant, just asking for a little bit of relief there. And then, of course, these are the ones that we are planting and can count by as of right. So I think just we'll end here with the rendering to, I think, hopefully show very realistically, we're not trying to oversell, that this is, you know, what the size of the trees will pretty much look like on installation, and that there is a significant amount of tree canopy being provided, and we think that it will be a very attractive streetscape. So I'll pause there.
Thank you, Elaine. I'm going to actually go back real quick to the table that's really the main request, just so everyone's on the same page. So with the 4 trees that died between when we originally received the permit in 2022 to when we commenced construction in 25, the mitigation required for that is 154 inches. We did not get an arborist out there. The trees were on the ground. And so at the 154.5 inches, we are putting 100 and I think it's 57 inches on the site. And so if you were to include the entirety of the tree plantings, we actually achieve the mitigation required. And so that's really the crux of my request, is that in lieu of that, that y'all would be amenable to making the administrative waiver.
Okay. Let me go through the citizens that are here, and then we'll call you back. First on the list is Mark. Is it Mark? Is it Mark or Moak? It's Mark. Oh, are you with them? Okay, I'm sorry. So you're there. Joan Cunningham, come forward. If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Joan Cunningham. I live at 137 Catherine Court, Unit 1, immediately adjacent to this project. I've been watching it with some interest from the inception, and I must say it's been quite an interesting education in how buildings are put together. I found it a fascinating thing. But to the question at hand, I basically have to agree with Letty, is that at the time that the permits for building were, at the time that the project was permitted, all of these trees were alive, they were gorgeous. We have photographs if you want to see the incredible canopy of trees that was over the whole property. And it was with some dismay that we noticed over time, as has been mentioned, that some of these beautiful pecans did die during the drought. And then it was with even more dismay that we watched the rest of them bulldoze down. My main thought is this. They were fine at the time of permitting. They were the responsibility of the owner throughout that period of time from permitting onwards. If nature and who knows what conspired for those trees to die, that's kind of on the owner, not on the city. They were alive when the permitting process occurred. I think that to give a waiver at this point, for the reasons stated, would set a precedent for anybody else with a expensive mitigation situation to, I don't know, encourage the trees to die at the appropriate moment, appropriate time after permitting, and then say, oh, well, it wasn't our fault, we didn't know about it. I just think it sets a very bad precedent. I think that it would be a very, very bad idea. I don't think I have anything else to say, except that there were gorgeous trees on that lot, including a huge, heavily fruit-bearing pear, which of course was lost as well. And I don't know if it was on the diagrams, I couldn't see. But anyway.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Elizabeth, yes?
Hello, Elizabeth Eust. Many of you have heard from me over the past several months. I live at 134 Catherine Court. I have the good fortune to be directly across from all this construction, with bulldozers often on my lawn breaking things, but regardless, I'm raising 3 beautiful young children right across the street. They used to go over there and collect the pears and the pecans, and these trees were gorgeous. I wrote down exactly what Joan said. These trees were the responsibility of Trebes. They were marketed as trees that were going to stay there at the time. My street is beautiful. When I bought this home, I thought of raising my children there, walking up and down the street. We do that. We want to continue to do that. And we want our street to be beautiful. Half of the reason it's beautiful is because people take care of their lawns and plant trees. When Trebes was talking about this project, and when it was also highly contested, he kept saying, I'm your neighbor, and I'm only going to build something that I would want to cross the street from me. And so I'm kind of asking you to pay up on that. I live there. My children live across the street. If you would be happy with somebody going back on their word and getting rid of all of these trees, we watched as they were cut down and we cried. These were a part of our life. And I know that seems silly, but they were. The pears and the pecans were something that my children enjoyed. It's disingenuous to kind of market those and then take them back. there's no hardship here. This is a self-created problem that you didn't take care of these trees. If you are our neighbor, you should take better care of the property and make your property something that is as beautiful as the rest of our street. You know, if you're constrained by the footprint, then you can go ahead and make the footprint smaller. Go ahead and give up some parking spaces. You can do that. Go ahead and make one less unit. You could do that too. I'd be fine with that. But give us those trees, because those trees add value, not just, they add value to our street in every single way. You know, the plans that were passed before, man, we sat here and listened to over an hour-long presentation with my 3 children running around before this was built. And why did we not anticipate that maybe we'd need to put some more care into taking care of these trees in the interim before it was built? I feel like if we were spending hours of presenting on this, maybe somebody should have been caring for the trees during this whole time. I guess my time's up, but please be a good neighbor. We live there. I know this is a financial thing for Trebes, but this is my life, and this is where I plan to live and raise my children through college. So give us back our trees, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Is there anybody else here to speak on this case that is not signed up? If you'll just state your name and address for the record, please.
James Lloyd, 138 Catherine Court, across the street next door to her and across the street from Joan. Only 2 points. One is, speaking with Letty, the mitigation fee goes into the beautification account. I hate to see that robbed in any fashion, because we can use more beautification. Secondly, in looking at the plan, this current plan for the first time, we fought long and hard, in a friendly manner, I think, for the developer to follow the code, and the code actually required 11 canopy trees in the right-of-way, what they're calling the parking trees. There are only 4 now. I'd like to know what happened to the other 7, and maybe as a compromise, the developer could add some more trees and treat those as bonuses and get credit for the caliper inches to reduce his fee. I'd be happy with that, but I don't know what happened. I mean, the zoning code wasn't amended, the original application wasn't amended, so I don't know what happened to those other trees.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, I'm going to turn it over to the council for discussion, and if they have further questions, we'll call you up. Elaine and Trebes.
Yeah, I just had some questions, and I'm not sure who's, I guess probably for the applicant to answer some of these questions. So regarding the pecan trees, so there's 2 issues here I think are distinct, the pecan trees and the zoning trees, let's call them. The pecan trees, were those intended to stay with the development plan?
No.
So
No,
they
those
were
were
intended
always
to
a
be,
part.
always, all 4 of them were intended to be removed?
Yeah, that was always a part of the plan.
Okay, so that's important, I think. Okay, so the other question I think is for Letty, and I guess I'm a little confused as to why we don't let people count trees in the right-of-way and trees in the parking lot. Like, to me, there are trees, and it's nice to have trees in the parking lot. It's nice to have trees along the sidewalk. I mean, I'll just say, like, looking at the plan, when you look at the front of the property, there's a lot of trees out there. I mean, right, I mean, there are, like, and so, but I'm asking why we don't allow people to count those. Like, do we have an idea what the policy reason for that is?
Well, the canopy trees and parking lot trees, those are zoning required.
Okay.
So the removal is under Chapter 5, but it
So
does
those are
not
like
allow.
mandatory, that all the trees that they're planting on the front are required by zoning, and the ones in the parking lot?
Right. See if
I mean, I know you said that, I guess I'm just, so I guess the idea is that that doesn't count as mitigation because they're required anyways? Okay, got it.
Mitigation beyond that.
Okay.
Letty, one clarification to Mr. Lloyd's point. What were you speaking to, the fact that there were a certain number of trees that disappeared?
Yes,
If you come forward, please.
canopy plantings on 25-foot centers. Now, landscape architects may say that that's impractical given drought, for tree survival, but that's what it calls for. Their lot is 300 feet wide. You take off 12 and a half feet at the end for a 25-foot spread, and you end up with 11 trees at 25 feet. That was a point of contention. It was resolved pretty quickly to where we had 11 trees. It might have been 12, but I think it was 11. And that was a code requirement on top of what Letty was talking about. And that was very important to us. I have trees in my right-of-way. She has trees in her right. We all have trees in our right, and it's a big part of our streetscape. And that's why it was important to us.
So Elaine, or Treves, obviously the trees have not been planted yet, so it's still in its raw nature. Can you walk us through that?
And real quick, Letty, I do think we do have a code requirement on tree spacing in the right-of-way for MFD, correct? And I don't know if it's 25.
Is it 25? It's 25 feet.
Right,
It
yes,
is
okay.
25 feet. So can you walk us through this exercise?
Yeah, my question would be, because these were pulled from the 2022 permit set, and so if that was approved previously, I thought that we were showing just what had already been presented and approved. I leaned over and asked Elaine when Mr. Lloyd was bringing that point, did anything change? And it's our understanding that nothing changed from the original approval.
Letty, can you explain this to us?
Again, going back to when we issued the plan for construction, we did inform the applicant that the mitigation and landscaping plan still required further review and approval to ensure compliance. Now, if they are requesting to reduce any of the required canopy trees or parking lot trees, those would have to go back to Board of Adjustment for a variance, because they are required by zoning.
Yeah. No, it's my understanding. I mean, I remember this from a while ago. We didn't probably talk about, well, we probably did. We talked about everything at that time. But I do remember specifically being there's a 25-foot spacing. Elaine, is there a reason it's not in there? Is it just a miss, or is it we have so many trees right behind there and they're going to overcrowd each other? What's the...
Yeah, this is a really bad answer, but it has just been so many years that, excuse me, I would really want to go back and double check before speaking off the cuff. I do see that there are a lot of trees, in that immediate yard, and so I'm wondering if we counted some of those because of constraints on the actual street frontage, but I'm really just surmising because it has left my head, unfortunately, but I'd be glad to go back and, check our notes on that.
Well, let me just ask a simple question. If we are short on trees, through some calculation, it shows 75 miles a minute inches, and we haven't planted yet, is there a constraint as to why we couldn't do the 25-foot on center to help mitigate some of that?
No, I mean, if it's required and what we're showing is not meeting the requirement, then I would be more than willing to accept that.
So a rough calculation, how many more trees is that, Elaine, if you went 25 inches on center, 25 feet on center, excuse me?
Just along the streetscape?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
Let's see. Well, I'm bad at math.
We have a number of 6, going once, going twice, 7, now we got Elizabeth's 8. Do I have a buyer? I mean, let's just do quick math. There's 300, is there, y'all agree there's 300 linear feet?
I believe so, yeah.
Take off 25 feet.
Well, you got to take the driveway off it probably, but just, I don't know if it's fair. Give her a second to do some math, and I don't want to make you do too much math, because this would be permitted. You're going to have to meet the permanent minimum anyways, right? But generally speaking, if you add 6 trees and they're 6 inches a pop or 5 inches a pop, you're going to add 30 inches to 36 inches. Personally, I remember writing the tree preservation plan like 9 years ago, and putting it together. And to your question, Carl, we probably didn't think about it at the time of when we were putting it all together. We were just trying to protect trees at the time and looked at it into a situation of, here's what we would want to do. We didn't probably look at it in the terms of how does this actually work? Could you ever build anything in Alamo Heights with enough trees? So personally, I think the parking lot trees should count towards the mitigation.
I think
as well as
the right-of-way trees, nobody knows they're in the right-of-way. They are trees along the streetscape, and that's the intent of the plan. So, I mean, I don't want to just, for the sake of saying you're short 10 trees, go stick them somewhere. I mean, that's just, it's not practical and it's not reasonable. But if we could do some calculation and go back to the 25-foot on center along the right-of-way, and with those trees, along with the other trees that were planted, I mean, when you go back to that sketch, as Elaine said, it's pretty accurate. You know, if we start planting a forest of trees, nothing's going to grow underneath them. And then we're going to have a worse situation of runoff than we have today. So I would like to do a calculation as to go to Mr. Lloyd's point of where do the trees go and could they be put back? And as Councilman Jesse pointed out, obviously you have some driveways in there. So we're not going to put them in the middle of the driveway. There's no driveways?
I'm sorry, there is a driveway that's on one side.
Okay, well, wherever the driveway may fall, we're not going to ask you to put an island with a tree in it. So I think on the linear footage of what is represented on Catherine Court and do a calculation on 25-foot on center is a start here and helps you get through the mitigation trees that you have to use. And, you know, I'm not one to give up parking in our community, so I don't want to, my opinion would be don't start cutting parking in the back, which nobody's going to see the trees anyway. So if there is no other place within the site, then we got to look at and make decisions on what the final mitigation number and count is.
Mayor, it seems to me that there's two policy questions we're talking. One is here compliance on the trees with regards to the compliance with the zoning code and the requirements for planting trees under the code. If it were, this was a clear lot, this is what somebody has to build and put it within their parking lot and along the streetscape. That's one issue we're talking about. It seems like there's a consensus that we want to see them work toward that. The variance question before us today is whether or not we're going to collect the mitigation fee. And I know there's...
Well, to some extent.
Well, that is the variance.
No, so just to clarify though, just semantics. You can plant in lieu of mitigation, right? So if you're planting more trees, just keeping that in mind.
Off-site.
I think you could technically plant off.
Well, to Councilman...
Well, the issue here is that when you have heritage trees or other trees that you're removing and you have to mitigate those, you can either plant up to the caliper inch requirement or you can mitigate. But, you know, the price, and that's intended to give development flexibility as you're planning a site in your landscaping, you can figure out what that is. And you can remove those trees, but the price is you got to pay for that removal because it's intended to be, as you noted, an incentive to preservation and design around to preserve trees. So the question before us is, are we going to waive or come up with a strategy alternatively to money, I guess, to whether or not they're going to be paying the $300 per caliper inch penalty? That's, I think, the policy question before us, right?
Well, let me clarify one thing too, just so the trees that we're talking about here, to go back to Mr. Lloyd's complaint, fall within the same right-of-way. And the way that the code works today, those trees would be mandated by maybe an outdated, but a current building code would not go toward mitigation. So we have two things here. One, we have to do what building code calls for, and that's what Mr. Lloyd is asking us to check. And then on top of that, regardless how many trees you plant in the right-of-way or in the parking lot, that the building code does not, and this is something for us to look at in the future, per Councilman Baker's comment. So we really have two things. Let's meet the code, which is a non-discussion, and then what do we as a council think is fair on either planting off-site if we have a location and/or paying a mitigation fee in lieu of planting that goes into the tree and reserve.
And I'm gonna, one more thing on there, and I don't know if this is for us to really to discuss because it might have been just fresh, is if trees accidentally die during the permitting process of natural causes, and I don't know if this is really a council decision, this might go back to the city to research, does that count? You know, because there's extenuating circumstances. We had 4 projects where trees died in the past 2 years of just freeze and then drought. They died. And then City of Alma Heights alone, I think we took, 13 trees out of the dog park last year of dead trees. I mean, we've had kind of a systemic tree death. So timing doesn't work out great.
Well, the issue, part of the issue is though, is we do allow credit for trees that have died, provided that we get something from an arborist that says so in advance, diseased or dying. So that's where staff has the leeway, not after the fact.
If they fall over, though.
So that's part of it. And
In
plus,
this case.
I think, Letty, on the 270 inches that you're talking about there, that was from the original calculation, right? So they have a revised number. We have our original
John, I'm
from
gonna
when the
get to you.
permit was approved. So, and on the pecan trees, if they were heritage, they were going to take them out anyway. So they would still have to pay mitigation on that.
Well,
Yeah, it's kind of,
where did we miss on the arborist report before construction? Just an oversight?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was not top of mind. I mean, and we were working on other problems with regard to interest rates and all
Yeah,
the
so
rest,
buddy, if
so-
an arborist had come out there and certified that these trees, their life is over, would he still have to mitigate them?
No,
No.
no, they would not.
well, in this situation, they fell over, right? But to the point Ms. Cunningham made, and I'll call on you if Al doesn't.
I'm gonna call you in one second.
It can be an incentive, but there's also just bad luck too. So, did you have a question?
Joan, come on. Come up to the podium, please. Right here, so we can,
I think you've got the timeline a little confused. The permitting was all done towards the end of 2022. Those trees were fine in 2022. The trees died after the drought that happened after that. So the trees were not dying during the permitting process. That's incorrect.
okay.
And just a clarification, I agree with that. I think we also recognize, as I'll just say, as a designer, we had sort of been said, we'll call you when we need you, because the project was kind of on hold. And then Trebes discovered that these pecans had fallen over. And so to try to document that in our presentation, we went back through Google Earth, to the aerials through time, and we're able to identify when you can just physically see that they've fallen on the ground. And so, we did mention that it just a little after the fact, like you get an arborist to come out and be like, yep, that's a dead tree,
Okay, I understand. Mark, did you have anything to add? I'm sorry? All good, okay. Listen, I'm going to bring it back to the council for discussion. Thank you all for your input.
And Mayor, I will say that, aside from Lawson's comment, I mean, we removed trees in city right-of-way throughout the city that had died, that we had our tree people come look at, or if they were diseased or dying. So there is merit to the drought portion of this. We all know that, but. That was a loud one, yeah.
Ma'am? Yes, sir? I'm sorry? Sure, come forward.
Just what this sounds like to me is it seems like big developer, right? It seems like you've hired two people to help you in this, is what it looks like from my angle. It seems like he's hired two people in this small neighborhood family. They're just trying to enjoy and get some sort of respect, I guess, from the council out of that they did lose all those trees, that beautiful, all these memories. And then it seems like it was also kind of convenient, right? That the 4 pecan trees had fallen over during that time period. And it just seems to me that if you're making this building, you have all this development, it seems kind of interesting to me that you're wanting to waive the fees towards the city, just in my opinion. But that's all, just something quick.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Carl?
Yeah, so I kind of have a question about like what we're being asked to do procedurally or legally. So this is captioned like appeal staff's decision. And so when I read that, I think initially like that Letty made the wrong, that the request is to say that Letty made the wrong decision in interpreting the code, which I don't think anyone's arguing that. There's no assertion that her interpretation of the code is wrong, correct? And so if that's not what we're being asked to do, what are we being asked to do?
The request is specifically with regard to the appeal process as to payment of the fee in lieu of mitigation.
But like on what basis? Because
Staff doesn't have the ability to waive the fee. We don't, there's no criteria in the ordinance, so we're bound by the ordinance. Y'all are the only ones.
So it's a
That can-
request for a variance or a waiver, essentially. I'm
request
just noting
for-
it's not captioned that way, it's captioned appeal staff decision.
It was staff decision based on the ordinance, so we we don't have the
I
authority.
think, Carl, the pitch is, if I heard it right, is basically our tree preservation ordinance does not count trees that are required and would basically make anything impossible in the code. If you can count the parking lot trees or the right-of-way trees, you know, they're meeting the intent
No, yeah,
of the
no, I
code.
understand all that.
No, the actual request here today, the developer is asking us to waive all or a portion of the remaining caliber inches that were not accounted for mitigation on this site.
But then I go back to kind of on what basis, and so I guess the argument initially of like, hey, we shouldn't be able to count trees that are required by zoning. I mean, that would be, we would change our code presumably, so that would apply to everyone. There's no argument here that this situation is different than how that would apply in any other situation from what I've heard. Now, I think the thing on the pecan tree is a little bit different. It cuts two ways, in my opinion. I think there's validity certainly to the idea that it does appear the tree died. I guess what I'm not so sympathetic to is the idea that the project was permitted in 2023 at a time when there was no intention to keep those trees. And so they're planning to pay the mitigation fee, and you know, the trees just happen to die, and it's like a savings for the project. It doesn't make sense to me why we would sort of reward what could be regarded as neglect. And so, you know, that's kind of how I see those two issues. The first one is like, I don't know what the policy reason for that is. I mean, I think it does look to me like there's quite a few trees being planted on the site in the front, and I agree I guess there could be more. Maybe the scale is off in my mind, but those are kind of my thoughts. But I mean, I think we have to think about what precedent we would be setting here, because I think the precedent we would be setting would be one that would be very hard to tell anyone else that they're not entitled to the same treatment on the zoning issue specifically.
I think it's a good point. I think with the zoning piece, though, as I look at it, and this is the first time anything, man, we wrote this thing 10 years ago. A little longer. 11 years ago. And the first time a project's come up, you know, sometimes our ordinances get put into practice and you start seeing some of the conflict. I would say that we would probably need to go look at whether those trees, like, after looking at this, I would say we need to bring this up separately in an ordinance and actually look at our tree preservation ordinance of what you should count. Parking lot trees, to me, should be counted. That's kind of how I see it.
Then I wanted to ask you, just let a clarification question. I think this has been answered, but on the pecan trees, like specifically, so the way our ordinance works is you come and you get a permit, and then it's not until you start construction that you have to pay the mitigation, or what's, because I'm kind of confused about the timing of that, because it seems like it had been determined at that time, sort of what trees were staying and which were leaving, and then there's this lapse in time where trees die, and so if they had gotten the arborist out there under our code, would they have been entitled to the relief in that scenario?
If we would have received documentation up front, then.
What does upfront mean?
At the time that they applied,
Okay, so that would have been in
for the removal?
2023, not when the tree died?
2022, correct.
Okay, sorry, I got the year wrong, 2020. So the tree, yeah, because I mean, that's what would make sense to me. Like, you come in, you get the permit, you apply for the mitigation, and if the tree happens to die after that, the tree you're going to remove anyways, why would you get relief from that?
For clarification, from a monetary standpoint, how many inches are we mitigating? What is he asking for in dollars? Is it the 80,000? Because if you stick, Elaine, if you stick to our code as it's written today, right, wrong, or indifferent, were any of his plantings toward the mitigation, or were they all toward the building code?
There's a combination. So some were towards mitigation. Maybe with the exception of the street, well, because those don't count. There's some towards mitigation, and then some were required by code for the parking lot has, you know, a minimum, and then the street trees. And then you were asking about the monetary value?
Well, if we stick to the code that's drafted today, we have two different things. We have building code that were mandated, and then we have a mitigation, which goes to the tree fund. I don't remember how many total, what the number was of mitigation before we even started. Are we down to 80 inches, 200 inches, 300 inches? What's left on the mitigation that has not been satisfied in inches?
There's a slide for that, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So originally, the deficit, so we were providing 92 inches and still had a total of 146.5 to meet.
You were short 146.5?
Yeah.
This is with the pecan,
That was the
so
original.
the pecans would have been cut down, right? So
Yep, right. And so per our current proposal, which is still hoping to count the pecan trees as an act of God, that they died, we would have a deficit of 74.5 inches, which is about $22,350. And if we were able to count the parking lot trees, that would bring us to a remaining of 20.5 inches or an additional $6,150.
how much did the pecan trees add up to?
The 4 that died?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were, will you add these up for me? They were 27, 8, 28, and 29.
Give me again, Elaine, what were they?
27, 8, 28, and 29.
92 inches.
Yeah, 92 inches that died.
Well, can I ask a question about the graphics? Because on the first one, it says 238, and the next one says 154. I don't think that math adds up.
There were also a couple of trees that had to be adjusted. We met with Letty and had to make a few other little adjustments.
No, but I'm talking about between the two tables in the presentation. If you go to one, without, if you're including the pecan trees, it's 238.
Let me see if I can.
Yeah, 238 was the original number, and then with the pecan trees, it went down to 154. 5, that's 84 inches difference.
Would you mind telling me which slide you're referring to?
They're the ones that have the tables, the summary of tree mitigation calculations. I guess it looks like slide number 5 and 6, maybe.
And I want to add one thing to this. The 4 trees that is called out, the 8-inch pecan does not count. That one doesn't count because it's species
Well, then
and
that would
diameter.
explain the discrepancy.
So there's
yeah.
3 of those 4 trees that count. The 1 tree does not count.
So it would be 84. So that number does check out. Yeah. Yeah, 84. And those were all slated for removal, all of them.
Correct.
84. Yeah, that's where I got 84. That's, yeah, the difference is the 8-inch tree doesn't require.
Not counted.
And then I believe we heard there's 54 inches of proposed parking lot trees.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
Yes, that's correct.
And then there is currently 24 inches of right-of-way trees, but I think that's something this discovered that's an increase per our code.
Correct. We'll meet with Letty and double check that and get as many as we can in there.
What does the city do with do we collect many of these tree mitigation fees, and what do we do with them?
Yeah, we do. From time to time, they go in the beautification fund. It's required by ordinance, so that's where it goes.
We planted 38 trees along Broadway at one point.
Mayor, I have a question. So comment was made earlier that the developers have the opportunity, if not paying the fee, to mitigate by planting elsewhere, or is that permitted in the code, or is off-site planning?
It used to be allowed for owners to plant in right-of-way. So prior to the last amendment, council did allow that, but unfortunately, what was happening is we would have the owner sign a document that that they were agreeing for us to come back to them and say, okay, we're ready for you to plant. Fortunately, people move, right? So then we had over like 300 inches of outstanding mitigation. So council amended the ordinance to allow us to collect so that we don't have to wait, and then the city could decide where they want to plant trees.
So that was where people were going to plant in the right-of-way, like
Correct.
in front of their property, but then they moved? Or no?
The city's discretion, but then as Letty was saying, let's just say, we know Mr. Sasser, we know where he lives, but let's say a national firm comes in and so we say you can plant 25 inches at a later date. Well, the president of that firm is gone or it's been transferred to Delaware and we can't find him. So to be consistent, what we did is we took it out of the code that prevented that you paid the mitigation fee instead of off-site planting. We as a council have the right to make that decision here tonight, but one thing I'd like to clarify, if there's nothing we've ever agreed upon on Catherine Court, I hope you agree with this statement. If he plants that meet the code, and we put the trees on 25-foot centers, and he plants as many trees as there's physically possible, nobody can say that he's ruined the neighborhood and it doesn't have the beautiful tree coverage of the rest of the block. We're not going to put trees in driveways. We're not going to put trees in the asphalt. So if he comes back with the 25-foot on center per the code, I personally feel that's a reasonable request from an optics standpoint, not for, we still have the mitigation, but I hope that you will agree with me tonight that when you look out your window and your 3 children look out your window, they're going to see trees, doesn't really matter where they're planted.
Yeah, I would be happy to see, actually, it'd be 10 trees because the 25-foot wide driveway would not be planted. That's all we're asking for, and it only showed up in this request when I looked at the site plan and said that there are only 4. And I remember distinctly there were 11. So yes, if that strip were brought up to code, I certainly would be happy. Now, let me make one other point. I had not seen the plan, nor had I seen this, and I didn't realize until I saw this that those trees and the parking lot trees did not count against his mitigation fee. That's the first time I have ever heard of that, because a municipality which imposes tree planting is doing it for the community good, and I don't see why they would be penalized via not counting those toward the...
Well, that will be our decision tonight. I just wanted to clarify that to the naked eye, nobody will be able to tell where the tree is planted, whether it counts or doesn't count. We're satisfying the neighbors from a beautification optic standpoint, correct? Thank you.
Mayor,
I'm going to bring it back to the council.
I want to so I know there's an effort to try to find a middle ground here, but I personally think from a code standpoint, it is not a good idea for us to allow for the mitigation of parking lot trees or street trees as an offset to mitigation. So I'm going to give you just an example. If someone took a building or took a property and took out a building and leveled a bunch of trees just to build a parking lot, for example, we have these requirements would be imposed by code because we want our parking lots to look nice, we want mitigation, we want the street trees. We apply that to every project. And if somebody blew out a bunch of heritage trees, and these are large trees, they're 33, 35, they were large heritage trees, we would be, and we didn't have a mitigation on top of that, we allowed the parking lot trees to count against those heritage trees, we would just be encouraging the removal of large trees from our city. So I know we're trying to find a middle ground here, but I'm concerned about the precedent that it might pick up on a future project. So that's, I will say that as we work toward figuring out what the mitigation fee should be, or if there's an alternative approach to collecting that, like planting, I'm open to those suggestions, but I am not supportive of offsetting mitigation requirements by required trees.
To clarify my comment, it was not an and/or. The optics, I want to please them from the optics of what they see, and now it's the council's decision to bring back the mitigation formulation and count of us. That doesn't involve the neighborhoods. So I'm going to bring this back to the council for further discussion, and I think we need to determine what you all think is fair. and what it is.
Linda, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us what.
You want to jump in here?
Linda's a little rusty.
I just think if you can't build a tree, you can't build a tree there. But if you're willing to move it, we need lots of trees in Elmo Heights.
Here it is.
So if we can designate maybe like the park or by the pool where we really need trees, I mean, it'd be nice to put trees on the island, but that's a TxDOT issue. So we have to find a place that they'd be valuable to the city as clean air, shade tree, something that benefits the city as a whole picture.
To try to move this along, y'all can run me out of town, but I'm going to make a comment or suggestion. Seems to be the argument, discussion about the pecan trees. We all know the pecan trees were there. We all know that they were going to be removed. They all knew, the developer knew up front that these were going to have to be mitigated. That's fact. I would be willing to take the pecan trees, reduce that caliber inch by 50%, and then apply the mitigation fee of $300 to the other remaining trees that were not in question here tonight.
So you have 84 inches of pecan
So
trees.
you're gonna reduce the mitigation fee by
Only
42
on the
by-
pecan,
By
42 on the
42 inches.
pecan.
Funny, Al, you should see what I wrote down here. So.
I've been with you a lot this week, so I know how you think, okay?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, I mean, that would reduce it by $12,600. Another proposal, I don't know if we could administer this. I mean, I think that our goal is really to have more trees in the community, and I feel like the applicant shares that goal. Like, I don't know if there's a way that instead, we could have them plant trees in other places and try to make that work. I mean, have the fee, but have it reduced by actual plantings in the community, if that can be worked out. If that's an alternative that they would want to pursue, or the council would. I mean, I guess instead of just collecting that money, putting it in an account, which we would use at some point, having, if they would prefer, actually go out and plant the trees in the community. Yeah.
I think-
I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea, just throwing it out there.
Mr. Sasser?
Can I just mention,
Got to go to football, but I just want to say, from a developer that's not from New Jersey, we planted all new trees in front of the Bel Air Apartments. I planted 4 trees in front of 5701 Broadway. There were no trees on that building. I planted trees, 3 on each side, Lamont and Evans, and then the city came in and added them on the right-of-way between the street and the park. And I know y'all just look at the code and you look at all this stuff, but I think, my name's Treeb Sasser, I'm sorry, I didn't
We know who you
introduce
are.
myself.
Yeah.
But it's a little frustrating because I guess if you're an accountant, you're a number cruncher, you look at all of that. But I think as a citizen of Alamo Heights who's lived here a long time, and certainly before any of these folks moved onto that street, we were there, and we developed something that's not a row house deal. And what I think he did was great. And so however you play it out. But I think our company has a history of planting probably more trees than anybody in in Alamo Heights.
Be careful there.
FYI.
Be careful, because you got Cappy Lawton.
Yeah. Cappy's got 100.
Well,
Cap-
I'll go against them.
Well, listen, we're going to bring this to a close.
can I, Mayor, if I can just comment, I think the concern the staff expressed earlier is surplus or a deficit of caliper inches planted on property. If you were to tie the planting back to the permit, because this is a permit requirement, and they could plant at a place within, prior to their certificate of occupancy, that would, you could probably create the obligation and enforce it in connection and do it in a timely way that might work.
Yeah,
It
or,
ties back to
they,
that code.
if that timing doesn't work, they can make the deposit and then get it back. But I guess my question was more from the developer standpoint, would you want to do that as an alternative, plant the trees instead of writing the check? I mean, that's just sort of I don't know which costs less money, honestly. I mean.
Go ahead, Treeb.
Depends on where you buy your tree.
Yeah, so early on in the process, I met with Letty and asked about that being an option. Hey, there's other properties, there's other endeavors that the city might be working on. I was informed by staff that that was not an option. And then I found out that, I guess, per code, it's not an option because of the amendment. Yeah, I would be willing to, for sure, choose to either plant it in a designated planting area or pay the mitigation fee. I mean, I wouldn't want to be necessarily obligated.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would have the option if you can find a place.
Right, if there was a value add spot, like what I have seen in the past is there've been trees kind of indiscriminately planted in city right of way that doesn't necessarily work with that particular property over the years. And so I wouldn't want to just commit myself to that.
Yeah, I don't want the developer to just be held responsible to plant trees for the sake of planting trees. They are local. They have been in this community for a long time. It's kind of a double-edged sword here. We're contradicting ourselves. We're not going to count your trees in the right-of-way on Catherine Court, but we're going to make you plant trees in the right-of-way somewhere else. So,
right.
I mean, let's try to be fair here as to we don't want to get out of jail free. But I do understand there is some value to what their history has shown. They're not going anywhere. They're probably one of the largest property owners in Alamo Heights. What they've done in the last 2 or 3 years is a huge value to our community. Nobody can argue that.
I need to talk. He got to talk, I'd like to talk.
Okay, wait, can I tell you? I'll make that decision, okay? So you've answered our question. Thank you. We either an and/or, I'm not an and, okay?
So they are, that would be an alternative. You don't want to be bound by it, but it might be.
Well, the one problem we have is when you tie it to a C of O, their C of O is coming pretty quick.
No, but I guess the way I would do it is they could pay the fee, and then if they plant the trees, then that would get reduced off of it. It'd be like a deposit, basically, and.
It's basically,
They'd have like a year. or
he's
6
escrow,
months
he's
or
basically
whatever
escrowing the money with us.
to plant the
Yeah.
trees. Yeah, because it's like, I guess as I see it, like if we actually get trees planted in the community, and they have to be places that the city wants them.
Well, we have a city park we're proposing.
Yeah.
We'll have plenty of
And so,
room for
like,
these.
that might be a
Before we
nice
talk
thing.
this,
and,
before
you
we
know,
talk these trees to death,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to move on, but now's a good time to come up with, and this would, we direct staff, that we do create a place, and we do have the size of the tree that we need to go in that designated, you know, we're talking about beautifying, we're doing the park, Lawson did a great job with the pool area. That's all belongs to where everybody in the city of Alamo Heights can go. And I just think this is the catalyst to create something like that, so we don't sit here and talk for an hour of this and that, and no, maybe so. But we set requirements of the size of the tree that goes in the park and where it goes.
Buddy, from a operational standpoint, do you have a comment?
No, we need to amend our code if we want to change it. I mean, you guys have the authority. And so that's what the mitigation fee is for. Exactly why the rule was changed before is because if we could tell them to plant elsewhere, but that never came to fruition, so it's put in that fund so that you guys can decide where to plant those trees.
Well, to bring.
Sorry. So technically, Treves could go and plant all these trees on the site. He could. They wouldn't look very good.
They won't survive.
If you could get them all in that zone, they'd be at 15 foot on center. They'd grow into each other. You could fit them in there, and it would meet the code.
Yeah, why would we want that?
We don't.
We
And
don't.
so the point is that we need to be pragmatic. And so I disagree with you a little bit there, is that I think that we wrote that heritage tree ordinance not realizing that it might just be a tough code, and this is the first project we've actually had in Alamo Heights in the last 10 years for new construction, since that code's been written, that had any trees on it. So
Well, let's do this. I think that we can't amend the code tonight. We have a code. We know the history of the developer. We know what they've done. We know what they're capable of doing. We know what they owe today. Let's think of something fair and reasonable on a mitigation fee, not complicate this, and move on. I don't want to turn this into a debate, so I'm sorry. Joan, I'm going to give you 1 minute.
2 points really quickly. One is, I believe that plantings in lieu of a mitigation fee, if you will, have to be from table 1, the right kind of tree, not just a tree. And the second thing is that if you look at that, it doesn't even give you a complete picture of the coverage that used to be there, which helped to keep the area cool. They completely clear-cut it, have put up all of this building.
Let me stop you. We've already agreed that
And-
we're going to plant as many trees as the code requires, and Mr. Lloyd has already concurred that from an optics standpoint, this developer is willing to do everything that y'all have asked to do. Let's quit beating this dead horse to death. They can't plant, listen, coming from the horticultural business background, 98% commercial projects in San Antonio, you can plant a tree too close together.
Of course.
You have intertwined root system, you have intertwined canopies, and then what happens? The developer comes back 3 years later, cutting them down.
True.
I think we've satisfied, that ship sailed. We've already satisfied the streetscape from an optics. The developers agreed to put as many trees as possible to meet the code. Elizabeth, come forward.
Two things, I'll be brief. The rules were the rules at the time that they got approved. Stick with the rules. That's what I'm always told. There are tire tracks in your yard. We can't prove it was them. It probably was. You can't prove it, so it didn't happen. Same with the trees dying. They died. Did they prove it the correct way? They did not. Just like I can't prove that they're driving over my yard and stealing my things all the time at the construction site. If you can't prove it, you just have to follow the rules that were as they were. So just follow the rules. We all have to follow the rules. They have to follow the rules. That's all we're asking. The little people follow the rules. The big people follow the rules. It's inconvenient. I get it, Trebes. Your whole construction project is inconvenient for us too, but just follow the rules. Like, you're my neighbor. Follow the same rules I follow.
Thank you,
That's all.
Elizabeth.
Mayor, you started to outline a proposal of some sort and around mitigating part of the pecan trees. Is that a proposal for the
It was
council?
a suggestion to council to consider, since the pecan trees, it's obvious they died. It's obvious they were part of the mitigation. So if there's a fair and equitable way to mitigate that portion, and then whatever the remaining portion is, it's our discretion as to what we think is fair based on what they have done for this project, which I think, I will tell you, is magnificent, is a great improvement to that street. I think it's a beautiful project. I think it's going to be one of the nicest multifamily projects in Alamo Heights at this time. And I think that's important to continue to have these kind of developments in our community.
Just for clarification, what would be under that concept, what would be the reduced or new mitigation fee that the developer would be asked to pay or offset?
Well, I mean, I guess that's,
12,600 less.
I think you calculated it would be 69,000, so you take half of the pecan tree figure out, which would reduce it to, I think, 69,000 from 81,000.
69,000 flat?
Basically, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, 84, 84 times 300. That's
well, you know, we have the right to, at this council, to go to $200 an inch.
No, it would be 69 flat, yeah, because it's 81,600 and half of the pecans is 12,600. So that would be I mean, we need to, I think there are, you can see some mitigating factors here, I suppose. I don't know,
Hold on. Lawson's.
I want to just understand, so if 238 is the number that we're going for mitigation, which includes the pecan trees as being alive. Okay, that's the 238 number. Does Elaine nod? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. So just to put this in perspective, there's 80 inches of site trees already on private property, not legal trees. There's 54 inches of parking lot trees. There will be probably, más o menos, 42 inches of right-of-way trees in addition to the 24 inches already proposed. That was me doing 7 times 6, so well, it sounds like there's 6 additional trees, so 6 times 6 is 36-inch new right-of-way trees, if they're 6-inch trees.
What are the other trees? Are they 6-inch trees?
Yes.
Okay.
So if that's the number, if you were to count all of them, I know you disagree with that, but just putting it out there. If you're counting all those, 80 plus 54 plus 36 plus 24, you've got 194 inches of planted trees. If there's no discount or anything for the pecan trees because
About 40 inches, isn't it?
because of, yeah, there's roughly
42 inches.
38 plus 6 is 42 inches. 42 inches of remaining trees. To Al's point, if you cut that, number in half, they basically would meet it in $0. I think the point, I'm a contractor, and so the past 3 years of how many random trees have died, just lucky, or trees I didn't even want to die.
Yeah, but
that weren't in my
I'd
way.
be a lot more sympathetic if those were trees that were being.
Yeah, they
taken.
would have been the mitigation.
You know what I
So,
mean? Like, because it's like, that's, but if they were going to be taken out anyways, it's sort of like the drought rewarded you by removing, but
Yeah.
I can see, some mitigation there.
so I would say if you kept those trees, you got 194 inches with everything he is planning on site. You still have a 42-inch, basically balance. And so I would propose that you just pay the 42-inch mitigation fee balance, and the city of Alma Heights goes and plants those trees somewhere else versus the 200.
So I think the first proposal would have been, if we were going to put in, I think we should have both. So 238 minus 42 would be 196. That was the initial suggestion.
That's not counting code trees.
And then your suggestion is how many? 42?
He's using the trees planted on site.
Yeah.
I'm giving no discount
It's
for
funny,
pecans.
it comes out to the same number, 42.
His
but-
tree does not take his calculation does not take a 50% discount on the mitigation of the pecans. He's giving credit for all trees on site.
On the site, in the right of way, plus in
Parking lot.
in the parking lot.
That's if they plant the additional trees.
I mean, I think
so
that-
to start giving you ideas. So that's one end of the
I
spectrum.
guess the challenge I see right now is it's like we're sort of like rewriting the ordinance on the fly, basically, which kind of seems like inappropriate for us to do in a way, I mean, this is not even like really a request for a variance or anything like that. So, I mean, that would just, because of what you said I would not know how we could ever tell anyone in the future if they came in that they're not entitled to the same treatment to count all the right-of-way and parking lot trees. It's just like, there's no distinction. Now, the pecan tree dying, you can see it's like, there's different ways of looking at that. And so, but I guess where I would try to lessen the burden perhaps would be to provide for the option that they could plant trees of the caliper required in lieu of paying the fee, if that's preferred by them. They don't have to do that, but that would be a way, if there was a place that they could do that economically, that would make sense, that they would be able to do that. And I don't think we have the concern, it sounds like we used to allow for that, and that would meet the goal of getting more trees in the community, which is what it's all about. I don't think any of us had any concern that they're going to disappear. So, and I think we have a mechanism to ensure that either the fee's paid or that mitigation is done. So I guess, I would go with the initial number that was brought out, giving 50% credit or something like that for the pecan trees, keeping the other part of it intact, but providing some flexibility to plant trees of the caliper required in lieu of paying the fee.
And to Joan's point, I do think we ought to be able to specify the type of tree. We're going to want a long time.
Oh, yeah, I think that should come to the city. It should be a mutual agreement, I mean, we have to, but I mean, my hope would be that could be like, something that would make the developer happy, make the city happy, make the residents happy, actually getting those nice trees planted somewhere in the community. And they can be part of that.
I was going to say, I'm sympathetic to the concept of planting trees, but then if we're offsetting it against a dollar amount, how are we valuing those particular
Well, I would do it by the caliper, so so they, and under that, there would be 196 inches, okay?
So we're paying like
they
300
wouldn't
back
planted
on.
like 100 inches of trees, now the fee gets reduced to 96 inches, just as if they'd planted them on site, so Letty's looking at me kind of weird, so. But I mean, I think that's the way it works, right? You plant a tree on the site, it's a number of inches, and that offsets your mitigation requirement,
Yeah, so
right?
just-
So they would just do the same thing off-site.
Well,
The problem is, it's going to be a staff logistics nightmare for Letty to go count trees. Trees comes in. I think we need to stick with whatever a fair number tonight on the mitigation. We can talk about the code at another.
well, here's a question. I mean, timing of this. I mean, you could in theory. I think we might have a hole in our code, all right? I think we do need to discuss whether these trees should be addressed, and I think we could do that. I don't want any person, if they find a hole in our code, for us not to be able to address it. And you're right, this is probably too quick to basically rethink the ordinance in today's piece, but I'd like to put it on council agenda to actually look at this, and I can run some scenarios of like, hey, look, if you were to build anything in the multifamily district today, could you actually ever get, even if you were building something smaller, you know, how does that start looking? I mean, it's some formulas, right? And so then we can point out, does this make sense? And Treebs may have 3 or 4, 3 more months to figure out if he's gonna pay this tree mitigation fee or not, or off-site plant. So you don't have to decide today, like, hey, we're gonna stick you with $80,000. We'll figure out our tree plan later. Because it'll just, the buck will be passed and we'll never get around to it. If we can have 2 months to, study these parameters. Because personally, I think the parking lot trees should count. It's on private property. There might be a different discussion on right-of-way trees, but I think the parking lot trees should count.
You know, parking lot trees always count in the city of San Antonio, Trey. In the city of San Antonio, I know that you had a discussion, I agree on a parking lot, but like, for instance, the quarry,
How many?
the parking lot trees are mandated, but they do count toward mitigation. But we can't change the code tonight.
Right. I mean, their fees are half of what San Antonio
Yeah,
charges.
yeah, that's another thing. Our fees are a third of what San Antonio fees are. I think they're, Elaine, what are they now, 1,100 for San Antonio trees per inch?
Well, it depends on.
If they're heritage, they go up to 3,000.
Times 3.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So these fees are pretty
Pretty light.
benign compared to San Antonio, so we're arguing apples to oranges. Let's bring this to council. I'd like to hopefully entertain a motion from somebody. It may be rejected, may be accepted, but let's try to move this on.
Okay.
I don't know what my motion is.
You want to table it?
Well, would the applicant rather come back and see if we do anything different in the ordinance, or do we want to issue our ruling right now?
I don't think we're going to get, with the schedule,
think there's a
with the schedule before us, there's no way that we're going to get on the agenda.
So are you saying for them to delay until we rewrite the ordinance? I'm not sure I'm following that.
That's what, I think that, he's asking for a continuance until we.
Well, I could make the discount for personally, I think we should come back and look at the ordinance. I think there might be holes in it. I want to look at it. I mean, I would give the discount on the pecan trees right now. Personally, I would say that the parking lot trees should count. I don't think I can get full consensus on council right now for that motion. The right-of-way trees, we would need to study it. So I'm saying I could table it. I could make a motion to table this, and we could try to look at this in the next 2 months. It doesn't really change your planting plan, other than you're going to have to put the right-of-way trees in per code anyways, between the sidewalk and the street. Sorry.
May I say one thing?
Yeah, real quick.
Letty did remind us that there was a variance along that streetscape during one of the hearings, so.
All right, let's not do anything off the cuff.
Okay, so yeah, you were asking me, I'll just respond.
Yeah.
We can table it. I don't want to belabor this. I know y'all are already exhausted with it, but it sounds like we need to get clear on our numbers and then
We'll
come
back.
and have a very short agenda item next time.
Okay. All right.
Well, hold on one second. We got to talk to staff. We know what the agendas look like, and this is going to be a council agenda on a modification. We're going to have to go to a subcommittee, which Buddy and I have already getting ready to form for a code amendment. I really don't want to push this off because it's going to be beyond their certificate of their final completion, and that's going to hold them up. Or we know today we can't ask them to plant any more trees. They've already agreed to plant, Mr. Lloyd, what you wanted. So we can't do anything physically on the site. I just think that we as a council need to take all this into consideration as to what's presented to us today, and if we could come to a decision, I'd rather do it today.
I have a motion, Mayor, in that regard. So I move that the council grant the applicant's appeal by reducing the tree mitigation fee to $69,000 paid to the city of Alamo Heights, or at the option of the developer, a reduction of such payment or portion thereof due by planting city-approved tree species on public locations specified by the city of Alamo Heights on a basis of $300 reduction per caliper inch planted.
Second.
I have a second, first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 3-1.
And I'll write that up for you also.
Thank y'all. Thank you. Okay, now to next item, item 4 and 5 on the agenda. Public hearing on proposed fiscal year 2026, 2027 annual operating budget. And item 5, public hearing on 2026 proposed ad valorem tax rate. Christine?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. We are in the final stretches of adopting the budget and tax rate. We'll be overviewing the summary of the general fund, the utility fund, and then the other intergovernmental funds as well, and then the actions that are going to be required. As the general fund, the projected ending fund balance, all these numbers are based off of the de minimis rate. So we are looking at a beginning fund balance of 9.1 million, our revenues about 16.1 million, our expenditures at 15.8, and that will leave us with a remaining fund balance, not remaining fund balance, a remaining net revenues over expenditures of 291,000, and that will leave our ending fund balance at an estimate of 9.4 million. Also, forgot to mention as well, the expenditures did increase a bit because we added the butterfly garden of 90,000, and then we also increased the health insurance from 17% to 25%. So that was an additional about 34,000. This is just a quick overview of the capital items that have been proposed and approved by council. So we have, of course, the solid waste, which is a garbage truck, the fire truck the fire truck encumbrance that we have going to be for the next 4 years as well. The air packs for the fire department, the EMS fund that we transfer over about 143,000, the butterfly garden sod project of 90,000, the police vehicle, 1 vehicle, the city hall renovation projects for upstairs, and then the comprehensive community grants, the household hazardous waste, and then the community fall event. And that is going to be a total of 1.2 million overall for these capital items. Again, this is a quick recap of the general fund. So as I stated before, we have increased the health insurance from 17 to 25%, which added an additional $34,161 in the general fund. And we also added all the capital items that were on the proposed list that you just saw on the slide before. And then we also do have a 3.5% COLA across all departments. And of course, this general fund current budget right now, proposed budget is based off of the de minimis rate. And then also the solid waste fee increases as well. On the solid waste fee, there will be 2 phases. The first phase will be implemented in October of this year, and the rates will go to $34 for the first cart and $20 for each additional cart. This is across the border for residential through commercial. So all the rates are going to be the same for residential and commercial. That will bring in an additional 1.24 million Our current expenses right now are at 1.25, and that is because we added the household hazardous waste of 50,000. So right now the variance is at we're spending about 15,000 more than what we're gonna bring in revenue-wise. So that is about a 98.76%. Fees are paying 98.76% of the operating budget. For phase 2, we are going to increase the first cart rate from $34 to $38. The per additional rate is going to be still $20, and that should bring in an additional $1.3 million. Our estimated operating expenditures for 2028 is looking at just a little over 1.3, so we should collect an additional $33,000, and that will go towards capital items for the solid waste. Now we are going to get into property taxes. Let me see. Sorry. Again, the proposed tax rate that we proposed was a de minimis rate at 0.426544. The no new revenue tax rate is 0.380641, and the city's voter approval rate is a 0.496515. These numbers before you are the proposed tax rate, which is the de minimis rate at the 0.426544. The columns, the tables I'm going to be focusing on are going to be the one on your right, because that is shifting the debt about 0.005 cents. So as you'll see, the tax levy is about 7.9 million. It'll bring the general fund reserves up to 9.4, and that reserve balance will be about 59.6%. And so we'll have a net overage of $291,000 in revenues over expenditures. Again, this is just the no new revenue rate and proposed rate and the change, and the difference of the proposed rate and the no new revenue rate is 12.06% increase. I'll be going through 4 alternatives. The first one is going to be the
Talk too long about trees.
Those are only charged for 20 minutes.
Okay, the first alternative is a 75-25 split from property taxes and fund balance, where 75% is going to be property taxes covered and 25% is going to be fund balance. So if you look, the total tax rate is looking at 0.402. Total estimated tax levy for the M&O is going to be about 7.58, and the total updated general fund balance would be a little over 9 million. The 114,000 will come from the fund balance, so net revenues over expenditures is the expenditures are exceeding revenues by 114,000. And the city estimated tax bill will increase by $282, which is about $3,560 annually. The next alternative is the 50-50 split between property taxes and fund balance. You'll see that it equates to about $229,000 coming from fund balance, about $230 coming from property taxes. The estimated increase is about $220 on the home valuation, and which is equal to about $3,499 annually on an $885,000 home. It's about 56.3% of reserves on the general fund. It'll bring in about 7.4 million in the estimated tax levy. Alternative 3 is where the general fund will be the general fund will cover the overage, so the tax rate increase is the no new revenue rate of 0.380641. A total estimated tax levy is about 7.2 million. The updated estimated general fund balance would be 8.7 million, which is about 54.8% of reserves. And so the general fund will cover about $468,863. And the estimated tax increase compared to the current rate is $92.92, so that equals to about $3,371 annually. The last alternative is midpoint tax rate between the no new revenue and the de minimis. This rate is a 0.403 593, which will bring in a tax levy about 7.6 million. The updated general fund balance will be about a little over 9 million, which is 57.2% of reserves. And that will bring in the net revenues over expenditures. Well, the expenditures will be over the revenues by 88,500. And the city estimate increase for the tax bill will be $296. And the annual tax bill would be about $3,574. And so, sorry, 88,000 is coming from fund balance and 380,000 is coming from property taxes. Before I go into utility fund, is it okay? Or go through?
No, only thing I will say is, we talked about a lot of different options. We gave you a lot of options. At the last meeting, you set your rate up at the de minimis, which you couldn't go any higher than that tonight, but you can always go lower. And so, based on some of the subcommittee meetings that we had, it was like there's a lot of items coming to taxpayers this year. New water meters, new this, tax increase, and the city still has to maintain operations. And so Christine's done a good job of putting together options. And generally, we like to come to you with a recommendation. And I think we have that, but the biggest catalyst for this too is a lot of what started this was all the changes at the legislative level. And so, it may not be in your best interest to raise it all the way to the de minimis. I've asked a lot of other cities. I know like Chavano Park, they're raising about 2.5 cents. San Antonio's raising their taxes because they have to. And it wouldn't be as big of a deal, but given that the session is fixing to start in January and they continue to tax on that, you may not be able to raise your taxes in coming years. And so there's probably a balance there somewhere, but I remember Carl bringing that up specifically when we talked about, solid waste increase, new water meter, you may be paying more, all these other things, and trying to soften that burden. And so I think Christine's done a good job of setting that up, and that's why you have so many options in front of you. So just, I'll say that, and she can continue.
Do y'all want to discuss the tax rates a little bit more before I go into the other funds, or do you have any suggestions?
I just had can you go back to the slide that's showing levy 1? I just want to write something down.
This one?
Yes.
The 75-25 split?
Yeah. All right.
And with the fund balance too, I mean, state requires 25. We have, our policy's 35. We have 64, I believe, Christine.
About 62.
Right now, 62. We would have 64 at the end of FY '27. So, and that's what it's for. It is a rainy day fund. That's what you save it for. But that's one reason. But anyway, that's why we try to give that scenario.
No questions? Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, I will go straight to the utility fund. Okay. Again, there have been, the only change that has happened in the utility fund is increasing the insurance from 17 to 25%. Everything else is pretty much the same as the last presentations. The total revenues is a little over 5 million. Total expenditures is about 6.5 million. So our expenses are exceeding our revenues by 1.5 million. So that is drawing down the fund balance from 4.2 million to 2.7 million. Again, this is a beautification fund. So our beginning fund balance is about 1.8. We have included all the items that were discussed in the previous budget work sessions. So revenues coming in is about 393,000. Total expenses 1.2. So it is leaving the fund balance a little over $1 million. And that does include the transfer from going into the general fund to cover the SRO costs is around 600,000. Let me see, this is harder to see. Again, these are the smaller funds, our street maintenance, capital projects, and the capital replacement fund. There have been no new changes since our last presentations. So pretty much the street maintenance is including the 1.2 million as discussed in previous work sessions. Capital projects is that 2021 bond fund for the Lower Broadway project. Capital replacement is including all of the vehicle capital items that you have approved, as well as any lease purchases or current leases that we owe. the last remaining funds is the EMS replacement fund, the 2026 bond fund, and the pool fund. Like I said, there have been no new changes for these funds, so the ending EMS fund is projected to be around 10,000 for the ending fund balance. The 2026 bond fund is about 313, and the pool fund is around 76,000. And the pool fund does include the renovation project that is upcoming as well.
For the smaller.
Yes. And that is it. Again, this is required by charter. The city manager has prepared the budget and covered everything. And these items do require a record vote to set the tax rate. And it is all done by local government code of 102 and 102.007 and chapter 26. And then last slide is just an overview of the motions and the ordinances for upcoming. So just pretty much a discussion right now to determine what tax rate.
Well, let me open the public hearing, okay? First of all, thank you for you and your staff's great work. I'd like to open it is now 7:11. I'd like to open the public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2026, 2027 annual operating budget. Anybody here to speak in that regard? It is now 7:12. I'd like to close the public hearing and move on to the public hearing it is now 7:12. Move on to the public hearing on 2026 proposed ad valorem tax rate. Anybody here? Nobody here. I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:12 and move on to item 6 for discussion. Budget and tax ordinance to be considered in the following order. A is fiscal year 2026, 2027 operating budget, and this will require roll call upon discussion.
I had a quick question before we get into it. In general, this upcoming year on the budget, because this is probably sounds like a dumb question, but because we have literally a column that says capital projects, but there's the transfers, the expenditure transfers out. Just want to kind of make sure I understand the number right. What would you say the number is for capital projects that we have in this upcoming year that are not maintenance oriented? This would be, I guess the maintenance-oriented ones would be utility fund anyway.
Right.
So general fund, what's our capital projects spend?
Is that the 7 million?
Excluding the community grants and the household hazardous waste, would that count?
That would be CapEx. I think
That's coming out.
More CapEx, right? So events wouldn't count. This is a CapEx, you know, if we ever wanted to turn the spigot off, we could turn it off at any point. So the community grant, I would say would count.
I would,
But that fund includes debt, right? It's all the debt payments, existing debt
The-
payments.
that would be the 7.8 that we just
There's that
issued.
one, that slide, right?
Yeah.
1.2.
so from that, I would say probably the community grants, the household hazard waste, because I'm guessing that's going to be a continuous item. Am I correct in that?
Should be.
Okay, so community fall event, maybe, I would
That's not really
believe.
CapEx what you're asking for, is it?
So,
Not most of these are not. So
Yeah.
really it's 90,000.
so you have the
City
renovation,
renovation.
the garbage truck, the fire truck encumbrance, the air packs, the butterfly garden, and then the police vehicle. I would say the transfer for
There's really
EMS.
not a
is-
lot. That's what I'm, because most of these are gonna, if it's not, you know, something for the firefighters, it's something else for the firefighters.
There's a garbage truck on there too. Well, I would say 125,000 of that is not. Everything else is capital. I would argue everything else up there is
Well,
capital.
what I'm getting at is as I'm thinking of, where my head is if we're gonna dip into the fund balance, it's stuff that's not gonna be as recurring, if that's how I'm gonna think about this.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, you know, dip in the fund balance to pay for the butterfly garden project,
If-
right? Because it's a CapEx, it'll last a long time. But we're gonna continue to have the fire truck number just hitting every year. And it's not something that we can,
The real CapEx is
Continue to
City
dip.
Hall renovation, the butterfly garden.
you could close off of an event, but
Yeah, you can stop
really-
an event, you can stop
It's not much.
Be the last three items.
There's only a few
Like
hundred.
Letty said,
Last three items are
125.
not cap items.
It's about $300,000.
So what that tells me is that we shouldn't dip too much into the fund balance, because this is more of an operational expense. And I think that you dip into the fund balance more so, for CapEx projects, because if you start using your fund balance to cover our operations budget, then it's a systemic issue.
Well, I mean, you have other options, like on the fire truck, for example. I mean, you know, even if we save 200,000 for the next 4 years, we're still $1 million too short, right? So,
My point is we're looking at this as a long-term decision. You cannot dip into the fund balance because it's just gonna extrapolate itself. You can dip in a little bit, and I think we should.
Right.
But as we're thinking,
25.
well, we'll see. Let's
So
go through it.
on that point, one of the proposals was 75%
Yes.
through a tax increase and 25% out of the fund balance.
Which was, how much was that number?
The
Some
total
thousand?
increase on,
115,000 from
slide.
fund balance, which is about what our elective
option. the
projects are.
that's option
75,
one.
25.
And as a reminder, how much fund balance do we have that's safe
9?
to use?
You have about 62%, so it's about 9.2 million right now. What is the fund balance sitting at right now?
Currently,
9.4.
we're at 9.17.
So, yeah, so about 62%.
You need a hold of that?
Well, no.
62%?
That's,
No,
that's a
no, no.
beginning fund balance.
It's at 62% of what our budget is, so by law, 25% we have to have, best practices. 35% is what our policy is, and you're sitting at, so you have 62% of what it would take to pay our bills for a year. That's your fund balance. That's not bond money, not bond funds, it's unrestricted.
So what's the excess? You said our policy's 35%.
So it's 65.
What is 50, what is the delta? Do we know? Like roughly?
65% of 9.
So it'd be
No,
about-
it's not 60, no, it's
gonna be
we're
about
at
3
65.
we have about
It's
3
about
million.
half. It's like $3 million.
$3 million.
Two and a- two- 2.7.
That you could draw down, but I mean,
Technically, the interest on it, though, being created is a
I
a
mean, I
revenue
think that-
stream in itself.
I believe staff has an answer for you.
Yeah, sorry.
What were we? Well, 35% is about a little over 5 million for the fiscal year 27 budget.
So you have
4 million.
about 4 million.
And the 75-25 draws down 100 and some thousand only?
Yes, it'll draw down about 114,000. We'll use that from fund balance.
So, and I think she has the percentage there in that 56.
The 56.9% is what will be the reserve total amount.
Would drop-
What does the 50-50 do? Next slide.
It's about 56.3% of reserves and.
Not much.
Not much.
Yeah,
That's a
actu-
no-brainer.
Mayor, I was calculating the difference between 1, 2, and 4, and what we're really talking about is somewhere between 20, on the average home, it's $24, $21 a month, $22. I mean, it's like $1 a month, $2 a month difference on the average home if it's 1, 2, or 4. I do not personally agree that we should cover the whole thing. I think Lawson's observation is a smart one. I'm also just very wary of the legislature and what they're going to do. And so I favor a portion of it in property taxes one way or the other.
So you're suggesting alternative 1, is that kind of
Well, that was one idea that happened to, the math seemed to work for over here in this side.
I have an interesting data point as it relates to alternative 1, and that's that the 2021 tax rate for Alamo Heights, I believe, was 0.404439. So we would be under the 2021 tax rate. I mean, as I see, like, the difficulty here is that it's like.
With which option?
Option 1.
Option 1, we're
Yeah,
still
we-
lower
we'd
tax.
still be I mean, the difficulty is this is a down year of revenues. At the same time, there's the talk about the legislative, like putting like basically a permanent cap on revenues. I mean, it just puts the city in a very difficult position. I mean, I would argue like the biggest risk to the residents of Alamo Heights is that the legislature imposes that cap and you're stuck with that and the city can't fund the services that people want. And so, I mean, you can always come back next.
We can always come back next year.
You can always come back next year and lower it. You don't know, the legislature may not do anything. We just don't know. It's a difficult position to be in, because if it were not for that, then I think it would be a much easier decision to say, hey, we've got this rainy day fund. Let's use it now, expecting the revenues will come back up. But we have down revenues coupled with potential legislation to cap it.
On
Escalating costs on the other side, it's just not
I'm going to echo something you've said before too, is that our city taxes in Alamo Heights are so well used, and that people are so happy with the way they're used. All those dollars come right back to them, whether it's with great police service, firefighting service, garbage service, new parks down at the field. I think it's, raising a tax, we're also adding services and adding new projects, doing a butterfly, improving our around the area. And so I think it's important to continue that.
I think this preserves some flexibility.
Well,
for the future.
some of this is not adding new service. Some of this is preserving the services we have today. I mean, we had a shortfall last year, so go back to slide. If there was no contribution from the general fund and we went to the de minimis rate,
Well, if you do the 75-25, so remember, our rate last year was 37.
Right.
But because of the 2% reduction, it automatically goes to 38, which is no new revenue, right?
Right.
So we can generate the same amount of dollars. This proposal raises it, go back to the option one.
Option one, levy.
The 75-25, so that's in the middle, right? 40 cents.
And we're talking about the one on the
0.407.
right-hand-
It's
We're talking about
close
the one on the
to-
right-hand side, right?
Yeah,
Just-
that's shifting, which we did last year. We shifted some to the debt side. And so that takes us to in the middle between de minimis and the no new revenue. That's middle ground. If you go to the de minimis rate, so this is 282.06 on the house, or 3560 annually. So where was that? What was that rate?
No, go the other way.
I think it was the first.
Go the other way? 4.
Yeah.
No, back,
Right there.
back.
Go back. No, you're good.
Keep going.
Going forward.
Right.
Go to 4.
We're going to de minimis?
No, go to 4. Right
That's
there.
the midpoint.
That's the midpoint. De minimis was the first option, wasn't it? Where was the de minimis
The
rate?
de minimis was not an alternative. Yes. I don't
And
remember.
we don't have the amount that it would,
Should be slide 7?
I guess we could calculate that, right?
No, we should have it.
Go back a little. 2 more? Oh, that right there. That's a de minimis. No, go the other way.
Just so much.
It's the next one.
Sorry.
Third. No,
No.
You
It's-
don't have
it's-
it.
It's not alternative, it's the
Oh,
original
no,
one.
no, the other way.
The other way. It's
Right, oh,
next. But see, we
okay.
don't have the,
There's the de minimis at 0.426. So if you look on the right-hand column, if we shift part of that over, it's 291,000, so 0.426544 on the right, that's also shifting a couple of pennies. And that's the 12.06% increase.
Is the de minimis.
The de minimis is what y'all elected to set it at, 0.42. When y'all called for this,
What's alternate one as a percent increase?
it's like 5.8.
5.8%
Yeah,
increase?
that's what I calculated. So I think that the cost of the median homeowner
Too many.
of the de minimis rate would be like $377
Annualized.
annual.
And the alternate one is,
Alternate one is 282.
that sounds right. I mean, we had that figure during the budget workshop.
and that's still lower than it was 4 years ago,
rate.
5 years ago.
Yeah, property values are of course high, but the rate was, and that was.
the rate is lower.
In 2021, that was when the bond.
That's when we issued the debt.
That issued the debt.
So the debt service went up from 5 cents to 7 cents because of the issuance.
So, you know, it's like, that's 5 years ago, the tax rate's still lower than it was 5 years. That's just a good data point, I would say, like, just kind of.
I like it.
And all communities, several communities around us are going to de minimis, but most are raising, I believe. Terrell Hills and Almus Park, didn't you say they were going to de minimis?
No, Terrell Hills is de minimis, Almus Park's going to voters.
They're going to a voter approved?
That just shows the
Almost Park, yeah,
concern
there's
about the legislature.
You should put a billboard up in Olmus Park saying, come to Alma Heights.
But you know,
Taxes
the
are
thing
lower.
is actually like, we have a much bigger unused increment. We have way
Yes.
bigger unused increment than
Yep.
any other community in Bear County.
Because we've lowered taxes so much.
Because we've done that. So like Almost Park, they're raising their taxes, but like, it's not that much. It's just, that's as high as they can go.
Well, their rate is a lot higher too. It's
Yeah.
50-something
They
cents,
don't
I
have
think.
sales tax revenue either.
So-
And San Antonio's higher, a lot higher too, their tax rate. Yeah.
So it's really up to you guys.
So procedurally, do we need to take a vote on which levy the council wants, and then we take a,
Do we straw poll it?
I'm trying to figure out the order
where
of
did Linda
motions
go?
here.
Well, I have the motions, depending on which one y'all choose. So we have to adopt the budget first, but that way I'll know what budget numbers
Yes.
to.
All right,
I think
so
we don't have any issues with the budget.
Then,
I'm thinking, so I'll go with, we shouldn't dip in the fund. I mean, we can use that fund for other capital expenditures down the road. I would go with alternate one.
Wait, hold on. First discussion.
We're not
item-
voting right
Yeah, we're
now.
not
I'm
voting,
just,
right?
this
No.
is
We
the
should have
straw
that
poll.
discussion.
But I'm just saying, first is Christine, we have to approve the operating budget.
But she needs to know which tax levy, so we know which budget.
Right.
Wait, it's just one budget regardless.
yes.
It's one budget, but the general
true.
fund would be changed depending on what option we pick, 1 through 4.
Yeah, we have like several ordinances written,
right.
depending on which one y'all choose.
I think
Let's
that was
pass
one
the
of the ones
budget.
I did.
Okay, so we should pass the budget first? We don't have to pick the tax rate before we pick the budget, right?
Can we pass the budget and then,
Yes.
and then amend it
That's the
by?
order that it's on.
Yeah, you can
Yes.
pass the budget.
Okay.
Pretty much if you are, we know internally like what number you're gonna go with, then we can update the budget off of those numbers. So if you're just saying we're
Okay.
gonna go with the
Oh, okay.
75,
So we got to
25
pass the
split,
budget and you can amend them to the vote on the tax base. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the
Probably a
fiscal?
very specific ordinance that I gotta
Yeah.
read.
You have the motion that has to be,
I don't have that motion.
Is that the end?
I have the one for the tax rate.
there it is.
Yeah.
Wait, that's the tax rate. Do we have one for the budget?
You just need a, I think.
That's just a regular deal, but it has to be a roll call.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve the 2026 budget as presented?
So moved.
FY 27.
Second.
I'm sorry, 2026-27.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, roll call, excuse me. Roll
I'm
call.
sorry, who was second?
Trey,
Thank you.
Councilman Burke was,
Okay. Thank you. Okay, roll call vote, please. Mayor Pro Tem Jesse,
Aye.
Councilmember Baker,
Aye.
Councilmember Billa Burke, and Councilmember Jacobson.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion
motion,
passes.
okay. Now, moving on to item B, 2026 ad valorem tax rate.
Okay,
That,
so alternate one? Alternate one? Okay, the alternate one.
Alternate one.
I'll do it.
Councilman Jesse. Jesse. You realize this.
Oh, that's nice.
75.
I know, it's, I know. I had an 11-year run.
I just want to make sure.
12-year run. We got a new mayor and all of a sudden we're raising taxes.
I think there's a conspiracy here.
I just didn't know what you handed him.
Okay.
Water rates, everything.
Just watching it.
The Honningbloom administration. All right, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of $0.402000 per $100 valuation, which is effectively a 5.61% increase in the tax rate, with the maintenance on operation rate being
Is that right?
I don't think that's right.
That's not right.
Yeah, that's
That's
the
not,
75.
Well, he
Is
just said
it
a
the
different number than
75?
the sheet that you handed me.
oh, he's you got the wrong sheet. Let's start over.
point,
The boss is the last one to know.
$0.33047, and the interest and sinking INS rate being $0.01953.
All in favor? Oh, no, roll call,
Roll call
Come on.
vote. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Jesse.
Aye.
Councilmember Baker. Aye. Councilmember Billa Burke. Councilmember Jacobson.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes.
Okay, moving on to C, ratifying the increase in property tax revenue reflected in the fiscal year 2026-2027 budget. You have another motion for that?
Yes.
No, we got a motion, no. I'm just reading it, now we have to make the motion. Is that
Number
it?
three.
I move to, yes, just say that motion, but just say I move to ratify the.
Just read the caption.
Just move to ratify the increase in property tax revenue reflected in the fiscal year 2026-27 budget.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Okay, roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Jesse.
Lawson Jess, sorry.
Who are you? Jesse Lawson?
Aye.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Billa Burke. And Councilmember Jacobson.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes.
Staff report, item 7 has been scratched from this agenda, will be picked up at a later date. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Blake?
He moves.
Who seconds?
Carl has the proxy, I second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Waiting adjourn. It is now 7:32.
And thank all of y'all for everything and all your hard work and rolling your sleeves up too. So thank you, top of staff.
Yeah. This was a lot easier than the tree ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Come tell me which one it is.